had every right, put his car there, and sometimes we would actually see in the past Bottas maybe just yield that position, but it's not this time, not this weekend. Full of confidence, sending it back up the inside. As we look now behind Leclerc, you'll see, did Albon make contact? Very late. Oh, it's so close. But Hamilton, I think he thought he was probably in control here. Sending it down the inside, you see turn one, it drops away a little bit, just understeers Hamilton's car, and he's thinking, hang on, Bottas is still there, as he sends it back up the inside, and the camber just drops away, so lacks traction for Lewis Hamilton. And then this is where Max was sniffing the opportunity, thinking, come on guys, just take each other out. Okay, you're not going to, I'm going to have an attack. But just wasn't close enough to attack and send it up the inside of Lewis Hamilton.
Thought about it. This is on board with Alexander Albon. It's going to answer our question of how close he got to the Renault ahead. There's the lock-up, super close. There was contact.
Like there was.
And thankfully for the Thai driver, it was tyre on tyre and no puncher for the Australian. That was their race, absolutely flashing before their eyes. Kimi Raikkonen with a huge moment, did well to keep it out of the barriers there. That's what cold tyres looks like on the opening lap. We go on board with Sebastian Vettel. Ooh, close,
could that be it? Well, I mean, he stopped. There are sensors underneath the cars, so the sensors are actually inputted in the track on Formula 1 race weekend, so it's the same for Formula 2, Formula 3. If the car moves, it will alert race control, so we'll see what they do there. That's Ricciardo, right up the back of Charles Leclerc now. He's looking a man on charge.
He is indeed. We ride on board with Ricciardo. Renault have come good. They've come so good that Ricciardo's had to field questions about whether he regrets switching to McLaren. He said at the start of the year, McLaren gave me a pitch, Renault gave me a pitch, and I went with McLaren because I think he really does believe in the leadership of Andreas Seidel at that Woking-based team. Right now, he's got a car in which he can fight. That's all he really wants. And after a superb qualifying effort from Charles Leclerc, the last time he put the car that high up the grid, he scored a podium, and you never know what's going to unfold here. We have no idea about tyre life. We have no idea about whether the rain's going to come in. So these two, they're battling over fourth at the moment, but it's one of those days where it could easily improve to a position on the podium.
You certainly could, and I was just about to say we could look at Leclerc's race pace, but none of the teams were able to do that in practice, because obviously there was scrapped FP1 and FP2, so the teams are essentially going in blind here, not knowing what their race pace is going to be like. They can predict, but they haven't had that information across the weekend. So could we see Leclerc actually manage his tyres pretty well, or could we see a Leclerc train form and a scrap for P4?
Daniel Ricciardo thinking about the move. If he gets half a chance, you know what's going to happen. Right now, he is just forced to look at the gearbox of that Ferrari. Intriguingly, Albon not all over the back of the Renault. So Leclerc was this was expected from Ferrari, wasn't it? That they weren't going to have the ultimate race pace, but it's not quite a Trulli train. It's a historic venue, so it's worth mentioning that Jarno Trulli, amazing qualified, not so great at race pace, so he would often put it on the front row and then have a train of cars behind him. Right now, only Ricciardo able to stay with Charles Leclerc, and you can see Ricciardo is now limited by the Ferrari driver's pace. It's lap 5 of 20, 1.7 second gap, personal best first sector for Bottas and Verstappen last time around. Very similar pace. Hamilton and Verstappen both lapping a tenth quicker in the first sector. Understandably, we are bringing you this battle for fourth position. Albon will know that his race depends on keeping up with these two. Right now he's not able to do so, and someone's already been off a tiny bit there because there's gravel just off the racing line.
It's interesting because we hear from Grosjean.
I got hit badly by some gravel from Kimi, and it's hurting my finger. I don't know, I hope it's not broken. I can't use my left index basically.
How bizarre. So
wow.
An impact there on the steering wheel. Romain Grosjean saying, I hope it's not broken. Let's go back to the battle for fourth position. Charles Leclerc locking up. Does that open the door? We go on board with the Australian driver, Daniel Ricciardo, looking to try and take fourth position. How brave is he going to be? It's pretty difficult to keep it on the road, on the racing line, let alone wide there. And he knew it. He's not being as adventurous as he would be if we'd had all the running on Friday, if we were running this Grand Prix in July. He's buying his time because he knows he's got the faster car. Charles Leclerc knows it as well. You've got to be brave to make a move into turn number 5. That's where Fernando Alonso got Felipe Massa to decide the Grand Prix in 2007, but for the time being, it looks like Leclerc's done enough. He's repelled Ricciardo, but this one looks like it's a matter of time.
It does, it certainly does, and you saw that Ricciardo tried desperately to get the switchback coming out of turn 2, but the issue there is it's slightly off camber on the exit, and there is a crest on the way in. Hard to see from the onboards. That's why we mentioned earlier in the pre-race show, the track walks are so important, and it's difficult to get the switchback there because of those two things. But Albon's closed the gap up now slightly. I'm wondering whether Albon might be just hanging back because he doesn't want to get too close to Ricciardo and have that dirty air to potentially save his tyres for later on in the race, because after all, we don't know what's going to be happening. But Ricciardo looks even closer this time as he exits the chicane.
This is important for Daniel Ricciardo's race. He's already 9 seconds behind Max Verstappen as Charles Leclerc looks after his pace but can offer no more at the moment. Gives you an idea of how inspired that lap was yesterday when you see his race pace today. DRS wide open for the Australian driver, who is not as close as he was 1 lap ago and just has to wait for it. The problem is the only clear-cut opportunity around here without taking a huge risk for your race is turn number 1.
Certainly is. Turn number 1 is your prime opportunity to try and get the move done. It is made slightly easier if you are the defender, because the next corner, turn 2, is a left-hander. It's quite wide on the exit there of turn 1, so you can use all the road and place your car nicely, just like Leclerc did into turn 2.
Good battle going on right now between Kevin Magnussen and Pierre Gasly. Gasly momentarily ahead in the battle for 13th position. But Gasly's just had to drop back for the time being. He's running out of turn number 6 at the moment, unable to get into the wheel tracks. And we can see Carlos Sainz.
There could be a very small light shower in around 5 minutes. Very small, very light.
So small and light, cooling the weather around here, no matter the complex task for the teams and drivers today. Cooling the weather, surely the most difficult task of all at the Nürburgring.
Certainly is, and that is exciting me. As we can see, the radar, something's heading that way. It's building up around the circuit. The storm is brewing, so a light shower. However, it needs a lot of rain really for the drivers to come in and pit to change to wets.
Here we go with Daniel Ricciardo lining up for the overtake, lining up knowing there's a threat of rain in the air and knowing that you've got to be pretty committed. These are the fastest ever cars in Formula 1, and it means the braking distance is hardly anything. Interchange tyres is Alexander Albon, who has bolted on the mediums. He's gone so early, that's lap 8, as we take you to the PLC's famous triple box to give you a more complete picture of the Grand Prix. Our apologies that we weren't able to bring you this on F1 TV to start the Grand Prix, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Certainly on a day like this one, there's 1.6 seconds between the Mercedes drivers out front. Verstappen able to hang on in there. Ricciardo not able to make any impression at all. Still Pierre Gasly trying to get past Kevin Magnussen. That will be a battle we'll keep you in charge with, and rain closing in.
Certainly is. You can see the clouds building there, tension there in the Red Bull garage. The guys take their helmets off, getting to privacy now. Alex Albon coming in, pit stops, so important to get on your marks, because the guys are lined up on the spot, and if they even have to just move over a few centimetres, that could cost a tenth, and we know how important tenths can be in Formula 1.
So Hulkenberg is in box number 3. The Racing Point driver, the super sub, he's closing in. Gasly is very close indeed to the drivers ahead, but we've got another battle as well in box number 1. Let's hear from Max Verstappen as they duel for 4.
Position 2, please. Strat 10, position 2. You might notice some drops at times, first appearing at turn 11, Max.
So Max Verstappen being told the rain is coming. Is the overtake coming from Daniel Ricciardo, launching the up and under and going all the way around the outside? That's brave stuff on a day like today. He'll be pleased with that one. Could be a race-making move for the Australian, who's up to 4th.
Wow, what a move. I was talking about the camber falling away slightly on the exit there, and it looked like Daniel Ricciardo wasn't going to pull it off, but he's still got it. The Australian has still got it, and he's just showed that just now as we see a replay now. Down, it forced Leclerc to defend got the cutback really nicely, got the drive and the traction, most importantly, out of turn 1. Leclerc probably didn't expect him to do this, so Daniel sent it round the inside. Leclerc had a little sniff, no room there. Great move from Daniel Ricciardo.
That's super stuff. You can see how far behind Verstappen he is, but that allows him to build a gap now. Could be a lonely race from here on in. Let's hear from Lewis Hamilton.
I think this rain is 2 to 3 minutes away. Expected to arrive at turns 10, 11.
Okay, turns 10 and 11 then, to point you in the direction. That's towards the end of the lap. That's the straight that brings you on to the chicane, where Lando Norris is right about now. He's the next car trying to clear. That would have been a delayed radio message, so the rain should be arriving any time now. You can see the spots on the lens of the helicopter as we look down to see whether Lando Norris can make the move. He's got a very fast customer behind him as well in Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc hangs on to it for the time being. Look at that confidence that Perez has, inching ahead in the braking zone, inching ahead under acceleration. They're so close together, dueling over 6th position. The Mexican driver, nothing between them, and Norris just about hangs on.
Oh, that could have so easily been contact there. I was waiting for that to happen, but brilliant, fair racing between these two drivers. Respect for each other, and that is what we want to see.
Hamilton a little bit faster in the first sector than Bottas last time around. That gap has inched down from 1.7 to 1.2, but how about this? So much confidence to place the car there, and that appears to be the grippiest part of the racetrack on the exit of turn number 1.
Certainly does. You can see just how close Norris radio.
Warning for turn 4 track limits. Turn 4 track limits warning.
Stop talking, but I'm racing.
So Lando, well, telling you how much pressure he is under, trying to clear one car, very nearly being overtaken by another. We're on board with Gasly, who's dropped back a little bit, but crucially on board with Sergio Perez. So Norris is trying to respond in 8th gear, heading to the chicane, breaking down from 200 miles an hour, and he can get close. But the exit here is the important one, and Charles Leclerc is going to do him a favour. He's going to get out of his way and change the tyres, and now we'll see a straight fight between the McLaren and the Racing Point.
It's interesting to see his position now and where he's going to feed out of the pits, and I want you to see now what they bolting on here. Medium tyre, on it goes.
That's exactly as predicted by Pirelli. Can you really go any other way today? Unless you're at the very back. Oh, there's Sebastian Vettel with a problem. Sebastian Vettel spinning down at turn 1. That might tell you how slippery it now is out there with rain on the lens. It's going to be so tough for every single driver. Vettel has kept it in the Grand Prix, but he's fallen to 13th.
It looks like he could have a flat spot on his tyres, but that's bizarre spin. It seems like from the wheel track marks on that zoomed out image we got of him coming back on the track, he spun quite early on. Is there rain there on the circuit that's affecting, locking the rears? We're going to find out soon, I think.
Well, the thing about the Nürburgring is it can be pouring down in one part of the circuit and bone dry in another. It looks all right down at the hairpin. No umbrellas up, plenty of hoods up in the grandstands, but no umbrellas right now. So if it is raining, it's not heavy. We've talked all weekend long, haven't we, about the fact that turn 1, you're slightly turning on the way into the braking zone.
You are, and looking at, we just saw there on box 2 on board a moment ago with Charles Leclerc just creeping around. You see now box 1, we're going to get a replay of Vettel, yeah, and it's a difficult braking zone. If we can hear Vettel now.
Box, the tyres are flat spotted. Copy.
Definitely looked like they were flat spotted. Just tried to maybe cut back across to get the cut back on the exit of turn 1. And again, that could be tyre temperature, just not having the grip there as he flicked to the left, rears locked up, and around he went.
Trying to get past Antonio Giovinazzi, now up to 9th position after his best qualifying of the year, looking for his 2nd points finish of the year, and thinking about the move, unable to make it right now. Further back, and we've got Gasly has got past Kevin Magnussen after trying that for so many laps. Hard tyres on the Ferrari after that issue for Sebastian Vettel. Vettel was put on the mediums at the start of the Grand Prix. They went a different way. He was trying to get past the Alfa Romeo. There's also a stop there for George Russell, who is exiting, and now Danny Fiat is the driver that we're watching in box 2 and trackside in box 1, trying to clear the Haas, as Sebastian Vettel has to reflect upon another moment. And it's not what he wants to. It's not what anyone wants to see. A driver of his capabilities, 4 World Championships with another seemingly driver error. That is a difficult thing for him. You can see he's wrestling it all over the road in box number 3 at turn 4 as he tries to get the hardest compound and therefore the most difficult compound to have any temperature at all.
It is, and you could see just feathering it through there. Just looks so...
Oh, Hamilton! Hamilton is trying to go around the outside. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead as Valtteri Bottas has a moment at the start of the lap. Lewis Hamilton punishes him. You can see on the tyre there's been a lock-up for Valtteri Bottas, and Lewis Hamilton punishes the error and takes the lead of the Grand Prix. There's the lock-up, and that opens the door for the world champion. After all the hard work at that part of the circuit, on the opening lap, on lap 13, Valtteri Bottas deep, wide, and ceding the lead.
Oh, Valtteri. And actually, you see that onboard was a perfect shot. The graining on Bottas's right front tyre. So, struggling already, but Bottas, what a mistake from you. But now he's going to be under pressure from Max Verstappen.
He's going to have to come into the pits, isn't he, Alice? That tyre is done. That tyre is finished. You could see it from the trackside angle, not even on board. And Max Verstappen's easily going to get him. He has got a huge vibration. And as we know from history around here, finished drivers with vibrations on the front tyres, it doesn't work out well. Just ask Kimi Räikkönen of that one. And Bottas is hanging on to it. There's a moment for George Russell. He's gone round as well, as suspected. Has he continued? Was he with another car? Also at turn number 1. This is turning into a very Nürburgring-like race. Into the pits, having lost the lead, now lost second position. Valtteri Bottas in for a stop mandated after that lock-up.
I have no idea where to look right now. No idea which box to look at. Fantastic start to this Grand Prix as Bottas exits the pits now. Could that have just cost him the win of this Grand Prix? I think, unfortunately for Bottas, it has.
Well, he's also had Verstappen get clear, and that will be the painful moment. He's also behind Daniel Ricciardo from the softs to the mediums, but those softs did not look in good condition. Here's George Russell trying to return to the pits with the delaminated rear tyre. Yeah, rear tyre's gone.
That's more, looks like that could potentially be a bit more than a puncture. I have to have a look. Rear suspension bouncing around quite a bit.
And this could be a virtual safety car if he puts any debris. You can see if it delaminates any further, it's going to take some of the floor with it. And here we go, here's our answer on board with Kimi Räikkönen setting the all-time record for Grand Prix started, but that is going to be a penalty. And George Russell in box 3, live pictures of him pulling out of the Grand Prix. Vettel ahead, Räikkönen to the inside of Russell, and that is the end of George Russell's Sunday.
It did look like a bit more than just a puncher. That's a big, big hit, and that again, cold tyres, just a snatch of the inside front right from Kimi, and that forced him wide into George. And yeah, that's going to be a bit more than a puncture for sure, as it looks like George tried his best to get it back. We're on board with George now in box 1 in the replay.
Oh my word, what happened there? I gave him plenty of space. Plenty of space.
You're right there, George. You certainly did give him plenty of space, as unfortunate end for George. Very gutting for him, as he's going to climb out of his stricken Williams.
Especially when this is the sort of day where you just have to see the flag, because there can be all sorts of opportunities. Plenty of action in the first 15 laps of the Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc closing it.
Raining a bit heavier, last sector, last few corners.
Verstappen reporting that it's the last 2 corners where the rain is coming in. Where were we told it was that side of the circuit where it would hit first? Charles Leclerc has gone up a position, and that is because Kevin Magnussen and Nicholas Latifi have come into the pits. Another driver locking up at turn 1 is Alexander Albon. We saw that on the opening lap. He's struggling. They're all struggling right now. They've got low tyre temperature and they've got rain incoming at this very part of the circuit.
They are. They're struggling for grip massively now, as we hear from Albon.
Okay, reports of heavier rain at turn 13, 14, 15. Just watch for more drops of rain, 13, 14, 15. So we do think these drops will stop soon, but it may be a little bit heavier last sector now. Doesn't look like it's affecting pace.
does look like they are struggling so much, those that have gone on the mediums or even started on the mediums, just to generate heat. As you've seen numerous, we've seen Albon, several people just locking up. You see Bottas now down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo.
Nice easy move for Bottas, who needs to clear that Renault, has cleared the Renault. One thing I want to ask you, Alice, from a driver's point of view, when you've made that mistake, when you know that you've given your dominant teammate the lead of the Grand Prix, how easy is it to push what you've done out of your head?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. You know, there'll be different ways that different drivers will take to use different techniques, but he really needs to try and force that and focus on the job in hand. As we see Max Verstappen doing something probably not as severe as Bottas for sure, but struggling already on those soft tyres. But it's difficult, Alex. Bottas now needs to take deep breath, refocus and focus on the job in hand.
And just be careful with that front tyre condition. It goes very quickly.
Once again, Alex Albon is struggling. We've got a virtual safety car deployed. The virtual safety car is out. Remember, if you pit under the virtual safety car, it's usually a benefit of about 9 seconds. Everyone will be trying to do so. Who's in position to take advantage of that? Who is going to go into the pits again, maybe look for an advantageous compound? First driver that's going to have that opportunity is going to be Lewis Hamilton, who is at the final chicane and is looking to try and come into the pits right about now. He will do so, so that's going to be a benefit for Lewis Hamilton and, of course, for Max Verstappen, who will surely do the same thing.
Yeah, you would expect there, as we see the reason for the virtual safety car there in box 2. Verstappen following Hamilton in there in box 1 as well, and box 3.
It's only a virtual safety car, but it's going to pay them back handsomely. A bit of a slow stop for the Mercedes team, so that didn't go exactly to plan, but he is back into the race on the medium tyres, and there's Max Verstappen. You can see he's gained a bit when he came into the pits. The gap was 5.3 seconds, seems to have come down there. Bottas is still at the final corner, so track position wise that has worked out brilliantly for Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Just looking to see if anyone else can come into the pits. As they do so, with the virtual safety car ending, looks as if Ricciardo, Norris and Perez have all decided to box, and on the restart Alexander Albon's got a run now. Albon trying to get ahead of Danny Kvyat in the junior team. Oh, lock up for Kvyat, send him off the road and should give the place to that Thai driver. Foot to the floor and moving up to 10th position. Oh, and there goes the front wing for the AlphaTauri, who's got to go all the way around again before he can get to the pit stop. That's a race ruining accident for Danny Kvyat, who's going to have such a slow lap there. Just went over the chicane, and it's cost him a front wing. It's cost him a chance of points today, but might we need a full safety car to recover that front wing?
Now that's interesting. Did he have contact with Albon as Albon did the switch back to take back the racing line? If so, is Albon going to have developed a puncture? Because it did seem to break very easily now, as we're going to see, going down into the chicane. Lock up from Danny Kvyat on those medium tyres, running wide.
And he goes over it, and that's enough to damage him. We can see Lando Norris very close indeed to Bottas.
I think it was contact with Albon. But yes, we see box 3 now. Great scrap going on here.
What is going on with Valtteri Bottas right now? And he's being passed by the McLaren. That's for 3rd place. Issue for Valtteri Bottas, tumbling down the order.
No power, no power. It's like a loophole or something.
He's got an issue.
Copy that.
Is there any driver defaults?
Stand by, we're looking. HPP default 01.
Well, after a driver mistake, a mechanical issue for Bottas, who is down to 5th, and they will be hoping that they can reset it right now. Now, Ricciardo did come into the pits. Norris and Perez did not. They decided to stay out there, and they are now in the battle for a podium position. Norris versus Perez versus Ricciardo for 3rd place in this Grand Prix currently, and Valtteri Bottas will keep an eye on his lap times, but right now he's not competitive out there, and what looked like it was going to be a brilliant day on lap number 2 has come undone on lap 18.
Yeah, and Mercedes are going to be desperately hoping that is not going to happen to the sister car, as we see Max Verstappen lighting up the timing screens. 4/10 quicker than Lewis Hamilton in the first sector.
It was a really slow stop for Mercedes because it was 5 seconds when they came into the pits. It's now just 1.6 seconds. Add to that Max Verstappen's driving, it's down to 1.3. That's how long a lap takes around the Nürburgring when you've got no front wing. And the Russian driver's chance of points, well, he's going to need a safety car. I suppose the only consolation he's got is it's that sort of racetrack. Ocon has now got past. Bottas is fading fast in the first Eifel Grand Prix. Having started from pole, doesn't look like he's going to convert this one either.
This is going to be interesting. I think there might have been contact with Alex Albon. This is going to tell us whether there is or not.
There you go.
There we go.
There's your answer, Alice.
There is Albon's second contact of the race. And he's very lucky, Albon, not to have got a puncture.
And going around the outside there, Daniel Ricciardo heading out of the Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas is coming back. And so there will be worry at Mercedes. Having lost one contender, could it happen to the other car? Reliability issues are so unusual for this Mercedes team, and Valtteri Bottas will retire from a Grand Prix for the first time since Brazil last year.
His afternoon has gone from bad to worse as Bottas. So unfortunate, but you mentioned they're not going to want this to happen to Hamilton's car at all, as Hamilton responds to Verstappen, setting purple past his first sector, as Leclerc now all over the rear of Nico Hülkenberg, who's lying in 10th place.
Just to give you an update, should the same problem head towards Lewis Hamilton, he has not had a retirement in 44 Grand Prix.
Tyres just starting to work.
Okay, copy this. So Valtteri is retiring with a car issue.
So that has taken then 3 laps for Lewis Hamilton to just start getting his medium tyres to work. So that just shows you, and the track temperature has dropped down. It's now 15 degrees track temp as Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the race.
Trying to respond, knowing that he is Mercedes' only driver left to try and take victory, and that is a cruel blow for Valtteri Bottas, who would have wanted the chance to play himself back into contention at this Grand Prix. It gives Lewis Hamilton one hand on the championship trophy. You have to say this is race 11 of 17, and he went in with a sizable gap ahead of Bottas in the championship. 205 points, playing 161, and right now Hamilton is poised to add 26 to that total. Verstappen will do everything he can and more, but it is a very, very tall task at the Nürburgring. What a 20 laps we've had to open the race up here at the Nürburgring, and Max Verstappen very, very quick in the first sector as he tries to get that gap down from 2.3 down eventually to DRS range. That's what he's looking for.
It's what he's aiming for, but he's going to be sitting in the dirty air of Lewis Hamilton. Both of them now exchanging best sectors, lighting up the timing board as we have a 10-second penalty for car 7, Kimi Raikkonen, causing that collision down at turn 1 with George Russell.
Yeah, always going to be slam dunk, not just the 5. The 10 tells you how severe it was. Here's a move for Charles Leclerc to the inside of Nico Hülkenberg, and he is comfortably through and up to 10th position. So Kimi Raikkonen not with the way he would have wanted to celebrate. Drivers yet to stop right now. I want to bring you up to date with that. We've yet to see pit stops from Norris, from Perez, from Ocon or Sainz, and we've yet to see a tyre change for Hülkenberg either, which is why he was up in 10th position. Everyone else has come to the pits.
So yeah, this is a chance actually for Alex Albon, a man on screen 1 and box 3 as well, to try and get his second podium of the year now as he's chasing down Pierre Gasly, race winner in Monza, of course. As he looks down the inside, Albon not quite close enough into turn 1.
If you're a fan of narrative, we had quite a lot of it at the Russian Grand Prix. Welcome back to Narrative Corner on the PLC. Albon versus Gasly returns, and it's a battle for 8th position at the moment. Albon, of course, who has come in and stopped Gasly, who has not. The Gasly with track position. And I want to remind you of a quote that we heard from Daniel Ricciardo, who said the team was surprised that this, in the current configuration of Formula 1, with so much grip underneath the driver, is basically, like Budapest, a full downforce circuit. And that is something that means that track position can be king as long as you perfect your exit from turn 15.
Oh, certainly will do. Of course, we see Alex Albon feather that car through the Schumacher S's. Replay of Kimi Raikkonen now in box 1, and this is going to be the reason why he got the 10-second penalty.
Yeah, I don't think there was going to be any arguing this one after the snap of oversteer, causing the retirement for George Russell. Out of the race he goes.
It's a tough one. I mean, it was just a lock-up from Kimi, then a snap of oversteer that sent him into George. Not deliberate, of course, but it's mean that he gets a penalty that sort of really ruins his afternoon, to be honest.
The lap time trading continues between Hamilton and Verstappen as we see another lock-up trying to go through. Are they both going to make it through the corner? Just about, I'm not sure how. Albon has had 3 or 4 lock-ups down into turn 1. He's desperately trying to get past, but he's got to take these tyres, ideally from Red Bull's point of view, to the end, and you can already see the damage on the front right. He's not able to get past Gasly, who will be trying to make that AlphaTauri as wide as possible.
So you can see, actually, Alex, as you mentioned, the front right of Albon flicking off loads of pickup there and a flat spot. That's a nasty one. Alex will feel that vibration through the wheel, and this is how it was caused. Keep an eye on the front right there. Long lock-up. And now you can just see it flicking through that flat spot. So not ideal for Albon, because he'll be fully aware, I'm sure, Bottas is out of this race. I'm going to hear from him.
They raced me so hard.
I didn't quite catch that on the radio.
I didn't either. I was trying to process it in my brain.
Driver Alice. You meant to decipher it for us.
Clearly. As we see a slow Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, Ocon going deep, and is he coming back to the pits? An issue for the Frenchman, perhaps. It's turning into one of those Grand Prix. And let's hear from the Frenchman in the pit lane.
I lost something. I don't have braking. And the gears are not working, guys.
Don't have braking. Now that's something you definitely don't want firing down into turn 1, let alone into turn 13, as we saw him skip the chicane. Again, this battle rages in box 1 between Albon and Gasly, who's desperate to get past, because Alex will know he has an opportunity of a podium this afternoon.
Esteban Ocon pulling up short, didn't want to risk hitting his mechanics down there in the pit lane, and it will be another retirement along with George Russell, along with Valtteri Bottas. You can add Esteban Ocon to the list of drivers no longer taking part in the first ever Eifel Grand Prix, the 41st Grand Prix to be held around this famous location. Still, Albon is stuck looking at the rear end of that AlphaTauri. It's not where he wants to be. He wants to be fighting with Daniel Ricciardo, but you can see the gap that Ricciardo has got up the road. Ricciardo in a great position at the moment, having taken the opportunity to pit under the virtual safety car. It wasn't going to work out for Norris or Perez. Perez has dropped back to 2.8 seconds away. Let's go on board with Max Verstappen in box number 3. Verstappen now 3.3 seconds away. He doesn't have the ultimate pace of the Mercedes. Last time around, 0.3 of a second slower than the race leader, championship leader and reigning world champion, on course to tie the all-time record.
Certainly is, as we still see, again, this raging on as Albon boxes. Albon's in the pits now. That flat spot, I would have thought, has just got too bad now. So Alex Albon into the pits.
And he's got a 5-second time penalty on top of that. It's not his day in the Eifel Mountains. It's just been issued with that. So the team will wait.
Oh, this looks like could be a retirement.
It certainly
for
does.
some reason.
They're not lined up, and Alex Albon will join Ocon, Bottas and Russell. That's a retirement from the Grand Prix. What disappointment for the second Red Bull driver, and it's turning into a bit of a car breaker, this circuit. Very reminiscent of the opening Grand Prix of the year.
Certainly is, and that's bizarre. We'll have to find out what happened there for Alex Albon. We see Esteban Ocon out of the race as well. So 3 out at the moment, and we're not even halfway through the Grand Prix yet, Alex.
We are not. How bizarre. We have become so used to this brilliant, competitive Formula One where the reliability is so good. And right now it's not looking very competitive at the front. Hamilton is just easing that gap away on the medium tyres. All of the drivers with a pretty basic setup going into this Grand Prix. You couldn't take any risks. Such was the unknown element of what lied ahead. Still to see pit stops from Norris, Perez, Sainz, and then we get to the driver in that battle as well, who has made the stop. Daniel Ricciardo looking good for his first podium with the French team. It'll be very, very well, it'll be a reward for all the effort that the team have done in the last few races. They are looking very strong as we close out the year. Let's hear from Ricciardo.
And keep looking after these tyres. All fight will be at the end with Norris.
Okay. I'm told he's in a fight. Thought we were going to hear a response from Daniel Ricciardo, but we will have to wait for that. Norris might be 32 seconds behind Max Verstappen, but he's looking for his second podium of the year, his second podium in Formula One. And one thing Lando Norris said earlier in the year has stayed with me. He believes McLaren are getting absolutely everything out of their season so far. He's very, very pleased with the way the team is performing. They've added updates to the car. They're not perhaps understanding them that well. Sainz has got the update, by the way. He is in fifth. Norris had the update in Russia, doesn't have it now. Let's hear from him.
Power. Something's happening. I've lost power.
Okay, we're looking now.
Reliability is terrible. No deployment. It's getting worse.
Okay, Lando, we see a sensor issue. We see a sensor issue. Keep going.
That is interesting. There are some quite aggressive curves here, Alex, and it would encourage the drivers to take the clean line through, but the clean line is not always the fastest line. As I noticed actually from Kimi Raikkonen's onboard earlier on, he's got a slight damage to the front wing, as we're going to hear now from Lewis Hamilton.
And default 03, default 03.
Confirmed. Not any better.
So slight change of plan. We heard from Lando Norris there, and that was Norris saying he was trying to change something and it didn't help. Let's hear from Lewis Hamilton now.
Still a little bit of understeer in this setup. Possibly one more.
Okay, copy. So Max Verstappen in 4.2.
So a little bit of understeer there from Lewis Hamilton on this setup. So I'll be interested to see if there's going to be something they can do internally with Lewis in the car, or if he were to happen for whatever reason to make another stop, a tweak of the front wing to help the car turn in better and through the corners. We see him exit there, box 2 through turn 4, keeping well within track limits. Lando Norris now being hunted down by Sergio Perez.
Yeah, and that gap has come down from 2.7 seconds to 1.3 due to that issue that you've heard Lando Norris report on the radio. As we come to the halfway mark, we've seen so much action already. We had a great duel for the lead down into turn number 1. Bottas braved it out around the outside, took that lead back, having lost it off the line to Lewis Hamilton. Then a mistake from him, a lock-up down to turn number 1. Gave Hamilton the advantage, caused Bottas to come in early, and then he had a mechanical issue with his Mercedes. It's caused him to retire, along with Alexander Albon and Esteban Ocon, George Russell as well. Ocon retiring with a suspected hydraulic issue is the word from the pit lane. And we will bring you updates about what caused Valtteri Bottas' race. It is worth reminding you, though, that that power unit was new for Valtteri Bottas. Both Lewis and Valtteri taking on a new power unit for this Grand Prix.
Yeah, as we're going to hear, Charles Leclerc.
Can you go faster? Question?
A little bit, but not like crazy.
Copy.
There we go. Yeah, I couldn't squeeze out a little bit more time, but
What do you reckon that is in terms of lap time? Like a tenth? 2 tenths?
Maybe a tenth, 2 tenths. It is Sunday after all, you know. But no, as we see, again, in both box 1 and 3, or now we've box 3 is switched to Kimi Raikkonen chasing down Sebastian Vettel, and Daniel Ricciardo, man on a charge, chasing down Carlos Sainz, who of course is yet to pit.
This would be an opportunity under perfect circumstances for McLaren to play team gates.
multi-H7, position 6. Multi-H7, position 6. Let's keep going for now.
But Perez is boxed. What am I going to do against that?
Perez is still behind. Perez plus 1.5.
My man must be going blind.
That's what pressure does to you. Right, let's go on board as we try to see whether Charles Leclerc can get past Pierre Gasly. And he was told, can you go any quicker? There's the answer to the race engineer. Yes, he can. He can take 7th place.
Yep, box tick there for Charles Leclerc. In through, up into P7. Nicely done. As we see them come out now, let's see, they keep within track limits. Just about, Charles, just about. So, Lando Norris, obviously blind. Maybe the cold has got to his eyes, not just his hands. The issue that he had.
I'm surprised he can't
yesterday.
hear the car. It's 1.2 seconds away.
But you see, they're mentioning different scenarios on the steering wheel. These drivers have got to learn so much. Got a huge booklet of the steering wheel they would have been given at the start of the season, and so many different scenarios. And you're out there, you can't just go, well, I'll have a look down at my steering wheel. Keep your eyes on the road, a glance at the steering wheel, different scenarios. So Lando's going to try H7, whatever it was. Let's see if it helps him.
Let's see if it helps him. And hearing that Sainz is weighing up a pit stop, he's not the only one. In comes Sergio Perez. Well, maybe he's not seeing things correctly in his mirrors. Maybe he's seeing the future. Lando Norris is really under pressure now because Perez comes in for his first stop of the day, and that is the second McLaren of Carlos Sainz in as well. In the background, that unleashes Daniel Ricciardo.
So it does some nice clean air now for Daniel Ricciardo, who will be aware of Norris's problems. He's got a gap now of 8.5 seconds to close down, but of course Norris has not pitted, so Ricciardo standing in good stead really to get the first podium of the season.
Well, that's not going to help things for Sergio Perez. He did not need Pierre Gasly getting ahead there, and Gasly yet to stop. That's just an irritant for the Mexican driver because he wanted a clean lap to bring the tyres in the way he wanted. Now he's got a whole bucket full of dirty air.
Certainly had just a snatch of that inside tyre there, just trying to scrabble to grip. They come out of the tyre warmers, but as soon as they hit the track they will lose some temperature. There will be temperature in the brakes, as we're going to hear from Lando.
It's getting worse. Oh, big loss of power now. I got no power at all.
Okay, we're checking, keep going. And default 03, default 03.
It's still bad.
Norris boxes now. Let's see what's going to happen. Is this going to be our 5th retirement of the race?
Well, this is such a shame for Lando Norris because he was all being well as Sergio Perez finally gets past Pierre Gasly. That's the difference between old and new rubber as he gets to turn 13 first. And Daniel Ricciardo now moves up to 3rd position. They're sending Lando Norris out there, but I think that is more in hope than expectation after the issues, because with that power unit problem, we're going to see, what are we going to see? We're going to see Lando coming out ahead. That's how much time. So Lando Norris has an issue with the car. He's lost 4th to Charles Leclerc, but he's kept track position after Perez was stuck behind Pierre Gasly.
Certainly has, and you saw a little bit of a front wing change going on there for Lando Norris as he came into the pits. So is he going to be a sitting duck here as he has Perez and Gasly lining up behind him? Hopefully we'll see the problems resolved for Lando and we'll have a good scrap on our hands for what could be this final podium spot.
They tried to clear him with the stop and it hasn't worked, and now, well, that is just plain confusing. A driver on old tyres holding up a driver on new tyres and allowing a driver with an engine problem or a power unit issue to stay ahead. Lando's not happy, but he's still ahead of Perez right now.
He is. So Perez, not ideal for him. He's sat in the dirty air of this McLaren, but with the power issues that Lando has, I expect to see a move fairly quickly, to be honest with you, Alex.
Let's see if it's coming at the final chicane. Turns 13 and 14. Norris goes defensive. Perez to the inside. And Perez takes advantage of the McLaren's problems to clear up to 5th position. Nothing Norris could do. And that is a sorry tale for the Brits race. He was in position to contend for the podium. He could not fight back. And now he's just thinking about trying to find any way to reach the flag.
He was just a sitting duck. Even there, he's having a look with DRS wide open, ran slightly wide, a bit optimistic there, Lando, but that would just be so frustrating for him. It's totally out of his control, and he knows that there's points to be gained. They are being lost right now, all because of that power issue.
And Lando, default 0-3, default 0-3. We might need to keep using that all race.
Yeah, but it's not doing anything.
And Lando, you're doing a good job in the corners. We see pace is good. You can do this. We'll just have to manage it.
Ah, it's a hard one. Asked you the question earlier in the race, Alice, as Kimi Raikkonen there getting out of the way. And Raikkonen just seeing who he's letting by. I think that might have been Lewis Hamilton who was letting by. Was indeed pulling out of the way. That's in box number 3. I asked you about Bottas trying to clear his head after a mistake. Lando Norris knowing that he's not going to get the result that perhaps he should have done. Now just trying to score any points at all today. The next car behind him is his teammate. We're riding on board with Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg has made his stop there, and he's got plenty of drivers to fight with in this Grand Prix, including Nicholas Latifi and Pierre Gasly. The next two up the road, that's the driver in box number 2.
Yep, solid job there from Nico Hulkenberg. Getting in the mix, having a good scrap now with Nicholas Latifi as we ride on board with him in box 2. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, box 1 and box 3. Just clearing a bit of traffic there as Sebastian Vettel kindly gets out of his way. Race winner, of course, was Sebastian Vettel last time we raced here in 2013. Lewis Hamilton was on pole, didn't manage to convert, but he was just over halfway through the race now, and 5.4 second lead to Verstappen. Going on, I'm not going to jinx him, hopefully not.
Don't say it, don't say it, you know the power of that microphone you're holding.
Matching Michael Schumacher's record, I've said it.
Hulkenberg to the inside. Alice has risked the commentator's curse. Hulkenberg has risked one to the inside. He found grip there, he gets past his former team, and he is up now to 13th position. He was having coffee early on Saturday, and instead he gets to drive one of his favourite circuits at a home event, and he's only a few positions away from the points. You saw Lewis Hamilton getting past the Alfa Romeo down there into the braking zone. That's Antonio Giovinazzi still in 8th position. Giovinazzi, having made his stop, started 14th, has made progress further forward. This is one of the strongest drives in Formula 1 we've seen from the southern Italian driver, and I say southern because he always points out he's from the south of Italy, and he's very proud of it as well.
Certainly is. Now, as I love this onboard shot, you can really see the movement of the rear car there of Charles Leclerc as he exits turn 15, and the DRS of Perez homing into the back. Is he going to go down the inside? He has a little look. Not quite enough room there, as Charles Leclerc, however, runs slightly wide, going through turn 2 now. Not quite close enough is Perez.
So Sergio Perez will maybe have to make another lap. Won't be able to make the move like he did on Lando Norris into the final chicane, which used to be a great overtaking opportunity, but the braking zones have come down since Formula 1 was last year, and it's pretty much turn 1 or bust around this circuit. 5.4 seconds now the gap between Hamilton and Verstappen, but Mercedes will be looking at the data like hawks right now, desperate to see numbers that they're happy with after an identical power unit failed with Valtteri Bottas, the same one that's in the back of the race leader at the moment. Daniel Ricciardo will not be happy that he's nearly a minute off the race lead, but he won't care at all that he about the time. He'll be very happy with the position that he finds himself in, and that was the important move that he made on Charles Leclerc, and the timing of his pit stop that set it up, and that is the difference between battling over 3rd and battling over 4th, like Charles Leclerc and Perez is doing, thinking about his favourite move. Close but not close enough. Charles Leclerc tries to give him room. They both make it through the corner, trying the switchback, taking 4th position. That's a great pass for Sergio Perez, who moves up to 4th place.
Very great pass there, but he overtook him before the DRS detection zone. It's not over yet, Alex, as Charles Leclerc has DRS, going to look down to the inside and makes the move. He gets the position back.
Is it over? Can we see another up and under? That's great racecraft from the Monegasque driver to take it back, and that one will go on all the time. This is hurting Perez's race. He would want to see if he could make any dent of the Renault ahead of him, but he's not able to do so. Charles Leclerc fights back. That's a driver in a great place right now. Super lap yesterday, brilliant recovery, and that is why you tend to wait for turn number 1. Perez waited, Charles Leclerc responded, as we see Latifi into the pits from 15th position. Latifi, who had already come in, this is his second stop. There goes Carlos Sainz getting past Lando Norris. That was on the replay, and this was more of a competitive battle. Super slow on the apex, but then the up and under, where was the detection point? There was the detection point, and it gave Charles Leclerc the DRS. Did he use it? You bet he did.
Of course he did, and you just saw Charles Leclerc scrabbling for grip there on the exit of turn 14. This fight is not over. Great run from Perez. Are we going to see something similar happen once again? Dives down the inside.
For it, and Charles Leclerc can't fight back this time. He will get DRS though. Perez this time up to 4th. The question is now, can he keep it? What sort of exit's it going to be? Trying to frighten him off the road in the mirrors there, and it seems that the Racing Point has scarpered out of range. What's the acceleration? What's the mechanical grip like on that Ferrari? Decent, but not decent enough. And the Mexican is finally clear of the Ferrari. And it's not the only Racing Point on the move. Hulkenberg has moved up to 12th position, getting past the Haas of Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, great move there from Perez. We're going to see replay now in box 1. Lined it up. Charles knew he was coming, left him enough room, late on the brakes. Job done by Perez. Great move, and look at the boys there in the garage, very happy with that move from the Mexican.
Given the reliability today, no wonder Perez has 8 brilliant podiums in Formula 1, all scored on unusual days where he had to take advantage. He had to try an outlandish strategy. Only once has he ever been the fastest car on track. You can see the front end plate of the front wing for Kimi Raikkonen damaged there for the Alfa Romeo, but he's still able to put the pressure on his old teammate ahead. Let's check in on Kimi Raikkonen's end plate, making a bid for freedom on the main straight. And never like to see that. Sometimes race control force the driver to come back to the pits. Thankfully, that appears to have cleared the racing line. We now join the 2 Ferrari drivers of next year, dueling this with Carlos Sainz trying to get past Charles Leclerc. He certainly will do so because the Monegasque drivers come into the pits.
Yeah, done him a favour there. So a battle that Carlos will be, thank you very much. And he's going to head down now and try and attack Sergio Perez as will appear. Charles Leclerc, clean pit stop by the boys, front wing change. On we go. Not the fastest of pit stops that Ferrari have ever made, but he's on his way now out the pits.
So the 2 stoppers beginning to frequent the pit lane. Kevin Magnussen's amongst them, so is Nicholas Latifi. Highest placed driver is Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc coming out in what is now 10th position behind this battle royale between some of the best drivers that we've seen around Formula 1. Now this is an issue that you tend to normally see in Formula 3 and Formula 2. Tyres not yet up to temperature for Charles Leclerc despite the use of the blankets, and that's going to allow Pierre Gasly to sniff around the outside. He knows that road's going to run out, tries to switch back. He is competitive right now, looking for the final place in the points. This is a brilliant place to watch wheel-to-wheel action. Gasly can't keep his foot in, and they're fighting ferociously ahead. These 2 putting on a show as well. Wheel-to-wheel action wherever you look, apart from basically the front of the Grand Prix, where Lewis Hamilton now has a 7.8 second gap out front. Then it's a lonely race for Daniel Ricciardo. That was all due to the move early on Charles Leclerc. That built his race for him. And now let's check in with Pierre Gasly trying to get past that Ferrari. That's the onboard in box number 2.
Charles will be hoping, come on tyres, come on medium tyres, get some heat, as we saw him scrabbling for grip once again, coming out of there. Down now, up the straight. I just think he would have enough time now. As Kimi's Raikkonen, interesting to see what stance race control take on that broken front wing. Whether he gets the flag, the mechanical flag for him to come in and pit, as we saw earlier on. A bid for freedom of part of his front wing, wasn't enjoying the ride up behind Sebastian Vettel.
Giovinazzi into the pits. That will drop him down the order. You look after your tyres. This is going to be a race that pays you back later on. And the two stoppers are coming in. Will they all need to make two stops in this Grand Prix? That was initially the prediction from Pirelli. Then they saw less cold graining than they believed was going to happen. Track temperature is at 16 degrees, so it's very similar to what we saw yesterday. And yet, plenty of drivers going for the two-stop.
We need default 0-3 after every corner. Default 0-3.
Yeah, trying to do that, man.
Okay.
I know it.
It's about the tetchiest I've ever heard Lando Norris on the radio. That's a driver who knows that the podium chance has slipped away.
You read my mind. That's exactly the words I was going to use about Lando Norris. Yeah, frustration for him, so frustrating, but you see him lovely, and this is what I'm on about with these aggressive curbs. Hamilton being fairly kind on the exit there of turn 14. Love those super slow-mo shots, and we see the graining developing there on a medium set of tyres under Hamilton, as now he's going to come up to the struggling Lando Norris to lap him.
Lapping the driver in 6th place tells you how far out in front Mercedes and Red Bull are in Formula 1. At least at this stage of the season. Hamilton and Verstappen have done 22 laps on that medium tyre now. Just looking at the furthest that anyone really took that tyre on the previous stint, Charles Leclerc went 25 laps, and earlier on Vettel had that issue. There is Charles Leclerc battling with Kimi Raikkonen, and now up to 8th position. Let's hear from the driver in box 3. Stand by for the honk.
So do not look after right front, it's cooling down, so we don't need to look after it.
We do or we don't need to look after it?
We don't, because it's going too cold, so we need to push right front.
So that is the battle between keeping the tyres in the window and making sure they can go further into the Grand Prix, and keeping tyre temperature.
Certainly is. So the Hulk, that'll be music to my ears, i.e. you can push a little bit more, don't look after that tyre. Obviously losing temperature there, the right front tyres. You see Max Verstappen, quite a lonely race for him at the moment, 8.3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton, lapping around about 0.2 of a second slower than the Mercedes driver, as we see this battle now between Gasly and Raikkonen, who's struggling, actually doing not a bad job, Kimi Raikkonen, with that broken front wing.
Oh, there's not a lot of grip at any point of the circuit, let alone there. Pierre Gasly, he was wincing as I was calling that one, but Gasly up to 9th place, past Kimi Raikkonen, who has that front wing damage. He's also got medium tyres that are good for 27 laps of running, and you could tell Hulkenberg now with a chance. We're on board in box 3 as the two Ferraris battle over 7th position. There's a lock-up. Charles Leclerc gets to the inside of his teammate and moves up. Hulkenberg trying to get past and not able to do so at turn number 1. Action everywhere you look, at least on the PLC, and Hulkenberg did manage to sweep by past Kimi Raikkonen. He is now up to 10th place. What an extraordinary day for him. He must be loving it out there. Tight battles everywhere you look. Personal best for Antonio Giovinazzi. Anyone else with a personal best out there? Danny Fiat. And that is a replay of Charles Leclerc making the move into turn number 1.
Quite an aggressive one as well. Again, I think he might have locked slightly that inside front right tyre. See again the move by Nico Hulkenberg. Nicely done. Checked out. A bit of a lock-up. That won't bother him. But remember, Kimi Raikkonen has got that 10-second time penalty that will be added onto his time after the race.
Hulkenberg, every lock-up of that size has caused a horrible vibration. So Hulkenberg will be hoping that he's the lucky one, given his late call-ups this year. Unexpected 2 Grand Prix start, 3 Grand Prix weekend. Maybe he's the lucky one this campaign. Give you an idea of how last minute everything was. He does have a pink Racing Point crash helmet, but the fact he's using a yellow and black one tells you that's all he had available to him in the last minute dash to the circuit. Running in the points. What a great story for the driver who started at the back. If you're just switching on to the F1 TV PLC, we've got action everywhere today with Pierre Gasly now on those fresher tyres, the hard tyres, getting past, at least momentarily. Can he keep the position up against Sebastian Vettel all the way around the outside? Vettel's fed up of this. He doesn't want to give the position up, but he can't fight back, and Gasly takes the place. He moves up to 8th position.
He does, and a bit too much curve there from Vettel, probably hampered getting on the power on the exit of turn 4. Nice move by Gasly, moves him up into 8th place. We see a replay, late on the brakes, a little snatch of oversteer actually for Vettel on the way through into turn 1. Braved it round the outside. Vettel saying, yeah, I may be older than you, but I'm not giving up the fight too easily. Locks the inside right, and we'll see here, oh we won't, he hit the curb and maybe lost potentially a bit of time. As it's Hulkenberg's turn to go on the attack on Sebastian Vettel.
So Hulkenberg on 10-lap old medium tyre, Sebastian Vettel on 28-lap old hard.
Much laps left. Not sure we'll make it to the end.
Now, I said before the start of the race, when we were looking at Sebastian Vettel, as Hulkenberg forcing him to defend, he just looked a little bit downbeat when he was putting his helmet on. And from that radio message, Alex, didn't seem like he's upbeat at the moment, as Hulkenberg's going to get the pleasure of DRS down the main straight.
And that is going to be slam dunk stuff, isn't it, in the battle for 9th position. Hulkenberg takes it on the fresher tyres with the softer compound. Easy pass for the Racing Point driver, now up to a very competitive 9th position. And how far can he take those tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix? Long stint on soft tyre, 29 laps on the soft tyre. Remember, that Racing Point is completely upgraded from the one that he drove at Silverstone, and Otmar absolutely loves it. The driver that he's employing today versus the driver that he's employing next year.
Certainly is, as we see Perez coming out now into the final turn, actually hunting down Ricciardo. Good pace, to be honest with you. I mean, the lap times, for example, Ricciardo's last lap, a personal best of 31.3, but Perez 30.7. So that gap, Alex, is coming down quite quickly.
Thought it would come down, but not by that much. Nervy moments. Hulkenberg is providing us with plenty of entertainment in 9th position, but Racing Point, we have a unique podium battle between the driver we're on board with in box number 1, Ricciardo, maybe just looking after those tyres, and Perez deciding, you know what, foot to the floor, I'm not finishing 4th today, I'm going to try and hunt him down. How long has Perez been stuck behind slower cars today, that if he could have managed to clear faster, that gap would have been a lot less than 11 seconds. Vettel's into the pits. He said the tyres were nearly done, and so it's a set of softs for the Ferrari driver, slightly slow, and eventually he's in to the race once again. 10 seconds for the lead out front. There's no point in Verstappen coming in unless he runs out of tyres, because they'll just try and force Hamilton to go the long way round. Hamilton trying to wait for as long as possible, and right now he's got Max Verstappen covered. And it'll be interesting to see if Verstappen comes in, then Hamilton will cover him off immediately. Here's the pit stop for Vettel.
Struggle there, front left tyre not wanting to go on properly. Just touching back now actually to this battle between Daniel Ricciardo and Perez. For example, medium tyres, both cars, but Ricciardo has had these medium compound tyres on for 26 laps compared to Perez's 14 laps.
Talked about those podiums for Sergio Perez. How did he score the early ones? Either in mixed conditions or making the tyres
still catching
last?
Ricciardo about 7/10 a lap, catching Ricciardo 7/10 a lap. Currently your pace is fastest with Hamilton, so you and Hamilton same pace?
That would be music to Perez's ears, wouldn't it? You are catching same pace and same pace as the race leader. So Renault will be nervy on that pit wall for sure, as we saw on the onboard moments ago of Daniel Ricciardo. His medium tyres just starting to look like graining up ever so slightly.
Right, there are plenty of Australian fans who will be shouting at their TV, plenty of Mexican fans as well. Oh, and off the road goes Lando Norris. Lando Norris has finally nursed that car as far as it can go, and he appears to join the retirements in the Eifel Grand Prix.
He does. Now, is he out of the way? I'm trying to just see whereabouts on track that is. Is that turn 7, Alex? Hard to see.
I think it's 6, just before the hairpin that he's pulled off. He does appear to have found a marshal's post But then George Russell appeared to find a marshal's post, and they still needed the truck.
That's true. So in driver's briefing, you'll have driver's briefing notes, and you look there for those orange markers, the orange fire markers, and that indicates that your car can be pushed through a gap. So he's found one of those. Track has, of course. We'll see what the marshals decide to do with that car, and whether we shall have a safety car or a virtual safety car.
Yeah, waved yellow flags at the moment. They're never happy to leave Formula One cars in that sort of position. You can see the fire there that is beginning to develop at the back of the car. You could see everyone in the pit lane getting twitchy. And I remember another McLaren driver finding a deck chair a few years ago. Best Alonso impression from Lando Norris.
And another McLaren driver, the same one that was struggling with straight line speed. We can always remember that radio message, so we'll take a ride on board and have a listen. Safety car just sounds like he lost all power and all drive. So here we go, safety car, Daniel Ricciardo pits.
With the safety car deployed, the race complexion changes entirely, and a super effort from Lando Norris to keep that car competitive with the problems amounts to nothing as Ricciardo puts on the soft tyres, and Perez with that tyre advantage is being negated by that stop by Ricciardo, who has the softer rubber in, and Perez has track position, but Ricciardo has the softer tyres. The full safety car deployed. In comes Lewis Hamilton as well into the pits to bolt on new rubber, and I suspect Max Verstappen will do exactly the same thing. A race that Hamilton was totally in control of, given a full safety car after that moment, and we're just waiting to see if Verstappen does that as well. Interesting to see what Perez decides to do. Tyre allocation not really a problem after no running on Friday, as Verstappen leaving the pits then. And we will keep you up to date on the order. If you'd made your stop a few moments ago, you may be still within a chance of being competitive. The likes of Antonio Giovinazzi and maybe Kevin Magnussen will have no need to stay out there. They'll risk one. Coming into the pits though, Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, I'm amazed actually that Perez still had time to come into the pits just before obviously Ricciardo was boxed before him, but had enough time before he completed the lap when the safety car came out to come into the pits. So interesting to see if he does come into the pits now. He's got a gap big enough to do so, so we'll keep an eye and see what they do. Very slow stop from Kimi Räikkönen.
He's taking the penalty, Alice. He's taking the penalty. 10 seconds for nerfing Russell out of the Grand Prix. So Hülkenberg stops, drivers with 2 stops, Sainz, Leclerc, Gasly, Hülkenberg and Räikkönen. Driver without that second stop right now is Sergio Perez, occupying 4th position. He has not come in to change those tyres. This is the moment that he does so, and he will hope that he can do so quickly. So that car recovered quite quickly. Full safety car is an interesting shout after the virtual safety car before.
Maybe someone
Hamilton has it all to do again.
To spice it up a bit, maybe. But we already had a scrap on our hands for 3rd position, and that scrap has definitely just intensified as there we go. In comes Sergio Perez, down there in box 3 and box 1. Out he goes, slot nicely in, back behind Daniel Ricciardo.
So now for Max Verstappen, a Grand Prix that was definitely lost, unless anything went wrong for the Mercedes ahead, suddenly comes back into play. And let's hear from Hamilton.
Please tell the safety car to speed up.
Copy, Lewis. I think this is going to take a while to get the cars to bunch.
Hamilton was worried about that, mentioned that after qualifying, that he was not happy with the idea of a safety car. He said that was going to be a problem for tyre temperature, especially you do not want a lack of grip on a safety car restart. Given what we've seen for Valtteri Bottas, for Alex Albon earlier in the Grand Prix, both retirements, along with Lando Norris now as well.
Now we haven't seen, sorry to interrupt there, Alex, excessive weaving like that for a while. Hamilton of course, will want the safety car to speed up just to get temperature in his tyres. He's waving his hand at the safety car, but the safety car needs to bunch the pack up so that there'll be a time restriction and speed, i.e. pace, that the drivers have to abide to, so they can't speed up, as Hamilton radio.
It's unsafe for him to go this slow for us guys with these tyres.
Okay, copy, we'll feed that back.
Hamilton definitely not happy. I mean, it does seem quite a slow pace, but Hamilton, get yourself weaving, boy. Generate a bit of temperature in those tyres.
It's your driver coach coming out again, Alice.
Yeah, I just can't help it. I can't help it. I can't. But there we go. He can hear me. There you go. We can communicate clearly.
You wouldn't be sympathetic on the radio, would you? Unbelievable. Get weaving. Stop complaining. Get on with it.
Yeah, some of my drivers definitely would agree.
Yeah, the safety car can't be out for long, mate, because the tyres are getting so cold.
Yeah, copy. Similar comments from Hamilton as well.
So everyone's going to struggle with that. So this then becomes, how quickly, naturally, does your tyre heat up?
Well, exactly the point. Mercedes, obviously, that one benefit they have over the rest of the field is DAS.
Didn't we hear from Hamilton about 3 laps to get it in the temperature window that he wanted, and that was without the speeds behind the safety car?
It was 3 laps on the medium compound of tyre, but the thing is going to be going down into turn 1, the lockups. Watch out for the lockups as we see lapped cars now in box 1 and box 2 being allowed past, so this is going to be potentially another. You can see that green light on the top of the safety car. That is a sign that the lapped cars can now pass the field.
And basically, Hamilton was saying, well, don't do this, and Verstappen was saying, well, don't muck around with all of this nonsense. And yet, this is the procedure. It's in the rule book. You've got to let the lap cars overtake, and they have done so. So everyone's going back to the lead lap, and despite the wishes of the top 2, it's going to be a very long safety car period to get everyone in formation. A reminder that we lost George Russell because he was nerfed out of the Grand Prix by Kimi Raikkonen, who has served that 10-second penalty. Valtteri Bottas had an issue with the power unit. Ocon retired with the suspected hydraulic problem. Albon, another retirement after getting a 5-second penalty for ripping the front wing of Danny Fiat's car. Norris nursing engine trouble all the way through the Grand Prix. Eventually it gave up the ghost on him, and it had a huge impact in the Grand Prix, because now we will be line astern with Hamilton, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Perez, no longer with Perez with the tyre advantage. That's now a straight fight. Sainz versus Leclerc, then Grosjean, the big winner there, up to 7th position ahead of Pierre Gasly. Hulkenberg in the points, having started plumb last. The weather's not too far away. Giovinazzi rounds out the top 10 within striking distance. Magnussen and Latifi there, not too far away from his first points in Formula 1 and Williams' first points since the last time we raced in Germany in Formula 1.
Yeah, and the one benefit, if there's any benefit for being a lap car, that you're allowed to catch the back of the pack up. But just looking at the sector times, sector 1 alone, for example, for Charles Leclerc to Lewis Hamilton, is about 17 seconds. So, that Verstappen, we're going to hear it from Max Verstappen now.
The safety car can't stay out another lap, mate. The tyres are way too cold. The others have much more benefit than...
Sorry, I meant 7 seconds, not 17 seconds. But yes, it's going to be a big help for those cars, because it's just going to generate the temperature in the tyres that Lewis and Verstappen can't do, and again, ever more frustrated behind the safety car.
They really are. So right now, brand new tyres for Hamilton, Verstappen, Ricciardo and Perez, for Sainz as well. Charles Leclerc has decided to stay out there for the time being. He's on 17-lap-old mediums. Romain Grosjean is on 19-lap-old hard tyres. Gasly on new softs, Hulkenberg on new softs. He's well placed, Hulkenberg, on that soft tyre, given the pace that we've seen from the Racing Point today. Antonio Giovinazzi on the medium tyre, 11 laps old, about the same as Kevin Magnussen, who's the driver directly behind him. Same applies to Nicholas Latifi. So their battle for the final point, they're all in a very similar position. The irritating thing for Giovinazzi, Magnussen and Latifi is that Vettel, Raikkonen and Fiat are behind and on brand new tyres.
Yeah, safety car is going to be in this lap now, so as Leclerc, Grosjean and co approach the end of the lap, they should quite easily catch the back of the pack, with the added benefit, of course, of warm tyres. We see the Renault pit wall in box 1.
That's Esteban Ocon there as well. Yes, it is. Thumbs
up from him, and this will actually could have benefited Ricciardo as we go on board with him now in box 1.
So the point that Verstappen was making, that because they've been going at the slow safety car speed, everyone behind has been going much, much faster. Could that give the opportunity to Ricciardo, maybe to Perez? Certainly they'll be in a different situation with the tyre temperature compared to everyone else. And nervously watching on, Mick Schumacher, who was meant to be running in Formula 1 free practice on Friday, that got rained out. He's with the team all weekend. Is he about to see Lewis Hamilton tie his father's win record? Hamilton is going to have to try and keep not only Max Verstappen behind, but tyre temperatures in a slightly better place for the yellow Renault of Daniel Ricciardo. Plenty to be sorted out here, with a great overtaking opportunity into turn 1. We hyped up this Grand Prix. It's delivered. It's unusual, the amount of cars we've had retire, and it is going to provide us, I'm sure now, with some wheel-to-wheel action once again. Verstappen and Hamilton, they're not happy with what's happened, but now they're going to debate the win.
That Red Bull looks ready to pounce on that Mercedes, and Daniel Ricciardo continuing to weave in the background. Max keen to get a move on, and so will Lewis Hamilton, who I expect to be putting down the pedal quite quickly. Watch out for those lockups into turn 1.
Well, that's the thing. Hamilton knows he's got cold tyres. He's battling another driver with cold tyres who could easily lock a brake and go into him. Hamilton drops the hammer. That's a good getaway. What sort of traction has he got there? You can see the Ricciardo very nearly having to avoid the back. The Red Bull with no tyre temperature at all, and a lockup. Wait for the start-finish line, though. That's what you've got to do in Formula 1 these days. Ricciardo's going to have an unbelievable opportunity now. Hamilton weaving like it's a formation lap. There's 10 to go at the Eifel Grand Prix. Side by side for second place. Ricciardo inches ahead for the moment, but Verstappen has the inside line. Can Ricciardo try the up and under? Perez is in the background as well. He's in box number 2. Verstappen hangs on right now to second place. Gasly was gaining a position up to 7th in the background there. Hulkenberg is getting past Grosjean as well as Perez goes to the inside. I thought that was going to be contact. They both get through, and somehow the first 4 remain in the positions that they started this lap on. Hamilton gets the breakaway from Verstappen, and Ricciardo was looking at second place. Now he's looking at defending, with Sainz in the mix as well.
Wow, that was so close between Perez and Ricciardo. Ricciardo just inching over those track limits, but he won't mind using and abusing those at the moment to get him out of trouble. But Carlos Sainz, he's joined in the party now as he's hunting down Perez and Ricciardo. But what a safety car restart from Lewis Hamilton. As we saw Max Verstappen, we said watch out for those lockups, just snatched that inside front right going into the final corner, which allowed Daniel Ricciardo to hatch onto the back of him.
We're not out of the tyre temperature issue at any point. Could be lockups at any stage of the lap, given what they're working with on this soft rubber. But in the end, the drivers making the run through the field were those passing the hard-tyred Grosjean, and they kept him out there just to see if it would work. But he's on very old hard tyres. 21 laps they've done, 10 to go then at the Nürburgring. 1.6 seconds is the gap, and here we've got Gasly trying to take 6th position away from Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc on the old mediums, Gasly on the new softs. How does this one end when they get to traction? It's the way you thought it would. Up to 6th place goes Pierre Gasly, and he will try and join the battle along with Sainz, Perez and Ricciardo ahead. Hulkenberg in the points on merit. He will be the next driver trying to get past Charles Leclerc on 20-lap old medium tyres.
He certainly will. Looking to make the charge, had the benefit of the extra pace really to bring those tyres up to temperature because of it being a lapped car. Hulkenberg, you see in box 2 tearing a tear off. He means business.
Does, and he finished 7th in his one Formula 1 start of the year. Next position up the road, 7th, and then in box number 3 you can see Sebastian Vettel up against Nicholas Latifi. Latifi on those slightly older tyres as we check in right now with Hulkenberg trying to get past. He must be having a ball out there. Started at the back after only 10 laps of running in the entire weekend. And what did he get? 18 minutes in the first part of qualifying before the lights went out today? He must be loving it in the cockpit right now. Ferrari is next ahead. Lewis Hamilton with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and it's 0.3 of a second better than Max Verstappen's personal best. Hamilton has done all he needs to at the restart. Now, can Charles Leclerc keep him behind? We've got one Ferrari on the defence, one Ferrari on the attack. That's a good exit though for Leclerc. It will protect his 7th position for the time being.
Certainly will now, but if that doesn't mean that Nico Hulkenberg deserves a seat in Formula 1 with a performance like this, starting at the back, as you mentioned, Alex, then I don't know what will. Great drive from him as he's hunting down, still within DRS zone of Charles Leclerc.
Hamilton's got the gap out to nearly 2 seconds now from Max Verstappen, who had the similar issue with the tyres. If anything, it was worse for Verstappen. He will try and come back immediately. Good pace on low fuel yesterday, similar to the Mercedes. Can he repeat that here and hunt down the world champion ahead of him? Verstappen is trying to chase down Hamilton. Vettel trying to chase down Latifi in 12th position at the moment. And the outliers in the pack at the moment: Charles Leclerc on the old medium tyres, Romain Grosjean on the old hard tyres, and Hulkenberg has got ahead. Grosjean hanging on. Giovinazzi will be hoping that he can use the tyre advantage to get past the Haas. Romain Grosjean has not scored points this year. It would be Haas's 2nd points finish of the season.
Yeah, as we see coming into view in the background, this scrap for the final podium spot. Perez, DRS wide open, gap 0.6 of a second. 7 laps remaining. This is going to be a fight. Renault wanting to get their first podium this year. Daniel Ricciardo's first podium this year as well. And Perez, he just wants to charge forward to get on that podium as well.
And Vettel going all the way around the outside of Nicholas Latifi and making it work. Vettel finally on the attack, and he is up to 12th position. We're trying to show you all the moves we can on the Triple Box PLC. Latifi dropping back. Raikkonen on those brand new soft tyres, able to get ahead. Latifi on 19-lap-old mediums is dropping back there. His chance of first points in Formula 1 fading, but he's got ahead again of Kimi Raikkonen. That's the battle we join right now. It's not for points at the moment, and Raikkonen's got far, far more speed. He's got to the apex first, and now with the traction he's got the position.
On board now, replay, of Sebastian Vettel going round the outside of Latifi. Latifi rolling off the brakes, just forcing Sebastian ever so wide, but then ends up, does he? No, yes, he does potentially lose a place to the driver behind as well, which was Kimi Raikkonen. But just nipping back again to Daniel Ricciardo, last time the Entstone outfit were here, they had both drivers, it was Lotus back then, of Kimi Raikkonen and Romain Grosjean on the podium, so that'll be familiar territory to them, this podium, which they're hoping to do. As Perez has slipped back ever so slightly, 1.3 seconds the gap now between him and Daniel Ricciardo.
You have to go all the way back to Malaysia in 2011 for the last time a Renault driver was standing on the podium, and Sergio Perez wants to add another podium to his career tally of 8. Last time Daniel Ricciardo was on the podium, he's on the top step, the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix. Whoever's third today, it's going to mean an awful lot.
It certainly is, that gap ever stretching at the moment, as we see Giovinazzi, great drive from him. Romain Grosjean in front of him, he's in a Haas sandwich, you could say. Magnussen charging down, wanting to grab the final points paying position.
It's outlandish stuff right now from Grosjean on those old hard tyres. But those tyres clearly have temperature. Things will begin to change if the tyres are going to drop away. Grosjean has a good buffer, 1.6 seconds, and he will hope that he'll be able to take them all the way to the end. One of the few drivers, he's the only driver still running, on a one-stop, making it work
just ran
for
wide
the time
there.
being. Magnussen going off the road, and Magnussen trying to improve up to 10th position. Instead, it's a moment that allows Vettel to get close. They've both got DRS, but here comes the Ferrari driver, looking to go to the inside, looking to improve to 11th on the softer rubber with a medium shod runner ahead. Sebastian Vettel will have the better traction, surely, on that new compound of tyre, and he'll force Magnussen wide. He knew that was coming. He'll return to the racetrack. He won't be pleased, but he knew that move was going to come his way. That's audacious. Will they get through turn number 4? No, Magnussen gave it everything, but finally Vettel has the place.
That was a bit like Magnussen. Yeah, you're going to get your elbows out. I'm going to get them out too. Sending one back down the inside. Luckily, Vettel saw that coming, but he's now put himself under even more pressure from Kimi Räikkönen behind, who goes down, trying to go around the outside. We've seen that happen before.
And that was a touch between the two of them, very nearly again, but Räikkönen gets past. And he gets through the Schumacher S's ahead, up to 12th position. There's one Alfa Romeo, then the Ferrari, then Kimi Räikkönen. He hasn't got all of his front wing. He has got the all-time start record, and he's going on the attack with 5 laps of the Grand Prix to go.
I had flashbacks then, Alex, of the Montoya Schumacher incident all those years ago, but Kimi managed to make the move still trailing around with that broken front wing, but he seems to be doing a good job with that, to be honest, as we're going to see a replay. Just very late on the brakes there from Kevin Magnussen. No way of getting the car stopped. Used the chicane, didn't gain an advantage at all, put himself under even more pressure from Vettel.
Here we go on board with Vettel. Let's hit him.
I saw him very last second. Didn't have anywhere to go.
You're saying that this moment is because he saw him last second. And he doesn't want a penalty for forcing another driver off the racetrack. 1.7 seconds is the gap between 3rd and 4th. 2.5 is the gap out front. Hamilton's had to deal with that safety car restart. He has dealt with that safety car restart last time around. Verstappen getting the gap down a little bit, but it has to be push lap after push lap now from Verstappen if he's going to steal the win away from Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, he's got to get his head down now. Previous lap times, Max Verstappen 3/10 quicker that last lap, but we know Lewis Hamilton loves to respond. So Lewis Hamilton seems to be in fully control. 4 laps remaining of this race.
Hamilton ticking over the line and coming back. They're still losing time, but only losing 1/10 of a second to Verstappen, who's not given this one up. Good lap for Sergio Perez. Takes a couple of tenths of a second out of Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo, who has been there and done that in Formula 1, looking to return to the podium for the first time since 2018, and more than that, looking to score his 30th career podium. The Australian who took a lot of stick in the press in Australia for moving away from a race-winning Red Bull team and going to Renault. Was he taking the money? Well, Ricciardo felt he needed a different environment, and he's got a different environment. Is he going to be able to take the place? Fiat's trying to take Nicholas Latifi. He's got the car on the outside at the moment. At least he was thinking about it. Instead, goes for the up and under. Can he go around the outside? No, not right now. Latifi on those old mediums. He's just about keeping the Russian driver behind as they head to turn number 4.
Yeah, he's trying. No. Nearly was going to do something similar there to what Magnussen had tried, as we see in box number 1. Daniel Ricciardo just keeping a nice little gap there. Nice nod of the head on the pit wall from Renault, who will just be wishing that Daniel, doing a great job, compete this up. There's the scrap down there in box 3, still raging on. Latifi all over the road, scrabbling for grip.
Still can't find his way through at the moment. We go on board with Perez, who finished a very, very strong 4th. And the last Grand Prix looks like it's going to be a strong 4th again, considering he started down in 9th position. And that will be frustrating. Would have really wanted to see how that one was going to turn out with a difference in tyres, but Lando Norris's retirement robbed us of that opportunity. Things are settled, it appears, out front, but remember, Bottas retired with a mechanical issue, the same power unit that's in the back of Hamilton's car, and we've seen the leader retire on the last lap before. That was Kimi Räikkönen in 2005. Has someone gone deep there? It's definitely a lock-up down into turn 1. And still Fiat can't get past the Williams driver, who was hoping to go on the attack and is instead looking in his mirrors.
He's going to be getting very frustrated, Danny Kvyat, right now behind Nicholas Latifi. I can imagine, box 1, these engines that you can see on your screen will be turned up screaming round this racetrack for the final 2 laps of this race, eking out as much as they can to secure that podium spot. Kimi Räikkönen sitting, chilling in box 2, driving round most Grand Prix of anyone, and Danny Kvyat still, again, really struggling to get by Nicholas Latifi as Lewis Hamilton lights up the timer screen and sets the fastest lap of the race and a new lap record.
Not a bad way to edge yourself closer to victory. Hamilton about to take 26 points ahead, that advantage ahead of his teammate who lost the lead today, but then lost a lot more. It was a puncher for both of them at Silverstone that Hamilton was able to nurse to the flag and take the win when it dropped Bottas out of the points. It was a mechanical failure today for Bottas, and Hamilton is on his way to a place in the history books, and he is very, very close to starting his 60th and last lap. We can see Kvyat closing in. Verstappen, you can see the speed he's got through the Schumacher S, comfortably ahead of everyone else in this Grand Prix today. An absolute world-class driver, of that there is no doubt at all, but Hamilton just with the dominant car ahead, and he's only going to be about 4 seconds away. Hamilton has always loved this track. He's been victorious here in Formula 3, in GP2, and a winner before in Formula 1, but this one's going to mean an awful lot to the British driver who is about to start lap number 60 at the Nürburgring.
Certainly is, and what a lap it will be for Lewis Hamilton. Final lap now, just another stat to throw in for the final lap. Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are the only 2 drivers, or should I say were the only 2 drivers, to have completed every lap so far this season. Well, not for Bottas anymore, as we see Max Verstappen, and we're going to come into queue, into shot, Daniel Ricciardo, followed quite closely by Sergio Perez.
This is going to mean a lot to Renault. This is going to mean a lot to Daniel Ricciardo. Perez is going to get close, but he will not be able to get there. Still, Danny Kvyat tries to get past Nicholas Latifi. Hamilton is at turn 7 on the final lap of the Grand Prix. Kvyat's going to get one opportunity here. We'll keep you abreast of whether he can take that opportunity. And here is Lewis Hamilton. Danny Kvyat, though, is he going to be able to finally get past? Yes, he is. It's not for point. No, Latifi fights back. He doesn't want to give that one up at all. And as they're scrapping, very entertainingly, I might say as well, we're about to have some moment. In 2006, the great Michael Schumacher, who helped design that chicane, scored the last win of his astounding career. 3 races later, this driver made his debut in Formula 1, and now he's coming round the corner. The moment's arrived. Lewis Hamilton crosses the line to take his 91st victory. Lewis Hamilton wins the Eifel Grand Prix and ties the all-time win record. Michael Schumacher has company. You are watching sporting history made at the Nürburgring. Max Verstappen is second, and Daniel Ricciardo for the first time since 2018, and Monaco is going to get back onto the podium. Renault are going to see one of their drivers on the rostrum for the first time since 2011. What a happy podium that's going to be. Verstappen took the fastest lap on the 60th and last tour. Then it was Perez, Sainz, Gasly, Leclerc. Points for Hülkenberg, who started at the back. First points of the year for Romain Grosjean. Giovinazzi back into the points for the second time this year as well. But now, at the top table of Formula 1, there are 2 names. One is Michael Schumacher, the other is Lewis Hamilton.
2 greats of the sport for sure, Alex. Wow. What an emotional victory, I'm sure, for Lewis Hamilton. Fantastic result from him. He definitely looks happy with that as he waves to the crowd, who didn't see much action on Friday, but they certainly saw some action today. And Max Verstappen as well in box 1 seems very happy with that as well. But a huge shout out to the Renault outfit back at Enstone. Parties all around tonight, I'm sure.
Look at what it means to them. Cyril, well, you know where he's heading. Daniel Ricciardo is choosing a slight change to Cyril's appearance. You've heard all of that before, though, but Ricciardo, he'd been there. It's going to be his 30th podium in Formula One, and surely one of the sweetest. But today belongs to Lewis Hamilton.
There, Lewis.
91 wins.
What a drive, mate, in such difficult conditions. That was just awesome. And Verstappen just picked us for that fastest lap just by 6 1/1000ths.
Yeah, I see that. They're getting fast, man. We gotta keep pushing. But what a result. Thanks so much. Great communication and hard work, everyone.
Certainly great communication and great hard work from Lewis Hamilton's team. And they're in box 2. I am so happy for that man, Nico Hülkenberg.
Wow, what a performance.
From the back of the grid, called in last minute, limited track time, midway through his coffee, had to hop into a race car, and he's banged it in the points.
The smashed avocado can wait when you've got a Formula One drive, and he has converted. 7th at Silverstone, 8th at the Nürburgring. Who knows, he might be needed again. He will have enjoyed it. Final thoughts of the